Hello, my name is Bobby Farris, and today I'd like to share my testimony. I feel like that I should share my testimony because I want to be able to help anyone else that might hear this or see this. I want to start by saying that I started going to church when I was 7 years old. I did not grow up in a church-going family. When I did go, it was basically just being invited by friends or parents of friends, and I never went with any consistency. I never really truly understood religion or Christian life, but I went just to be nice to the friends that I was going with or whatever, and join the companionship I had. That being said, growing up, I went to several different churches, but I never lived it. I never really truly understood. When I wanted to do something, I'd done it. I didn't care about the consequences. I didn't think about the future. I just didn't care. I just did what I wanted to. I grew up thinking that Christians were supposed to be perfect, absolutely perfect. They weren't supposed to do many things, and they were supposed to do certain other things. And I felt like that I couldn't be that kind of person, so I quit going. I was taught that can't say I was taught. I was made to believe by some people that most Christians were hypocrites. They acted like they were religious and Christians, but they truly weren't. And as I grew up, I kept getting pulled back. I'd go back to church for a little while, and I'd quit going. I would go back and forth, and I never truly understood the concept of religion and Christianity, but I kept going. And I did a lot of things that I'm not proud of. And now looking back, I realized that Jesus has always been in my life. He's always been there, but I've always argued with him, fought with him, struggled to do the things I wanted to do. I didn't want to live by anyone else's standards but my own, and that included Jesus. I felt like that I've always believed in Jesus and God, but I thought that was in the past. It was hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago, and my life was my life, and however I lived it was up to me. But gradually, things kept pulling me back, and finally one day, my wife and I were having a discussion, and I told her, I said, I wish I understood this, but I don't. I go to church every Sunday, but I don't have any enjoyment out of it. I don't see the peace, I don't see the joy, I don't see the happiness. For me, I think about church on Saturday night when I'm getting ready to go the next day. We go the next day, we come home, and that's it. I don't think about anything in relation to religion or Jesus or God the rest of the week. And she told me one day that one of these days I'd have an experience. And I told her she was crazy. I said, that's just something that religious people say to themselves or tell other people to make it seem more convincing, more real. And then one Sunday, about a year ago, I was standing in church. Our preacher stood up at the end of the service and encouraged anybody in the congregation to come forward during our last song that wanted to turn their life over to Christ or to recommit themselves. Well, that Sunday, I felt a weird sensation. It was more like my heart started pounding, and I was felt almost like I was being pulled forward, and it kind of freaked me out a little bit, and I thought, what's going on? I looked around the congregation, and no one noticed, and I thought everybody was probably wondering why I was acting so weird, but later on I found out no one knew. Well, being the person I am, I continued to struggle, continued to fight it, and I didn't move forward. I stood there. Didn't tell anybody it happened, went home, went on about my way that next week, but for the first time ever, I thought about it most every day, wondering what that was, why I felt so strongly that day, and went to church the next Sunday, had the service, and the second time it happened again. Preacher stood up, encouraged everybody to come up forward during the song to dedicate their lives to Christ or to rededicate their lives to Christ. My heart started pounding, started feeling that pull. Again, I froze up. I couldn't do nothing. I stood there, wasn't sure what in the world was going on. Didn't know if this was this sensation or this experience that my wife had told me about, but kind of mixture between fighting and cowardice. I stood there, refused to move forward. Service ended, we started walking out the door, and for the first time ever I shook the preacher's hand and told him I enjoyed the service. He smiled and said he was glad, encouraged me to continue to come. I said I would. The third week came, and again, like the first week, I thought about God and Jesus Christ and all that had happened and all the things that I already knew. I thought about it all week long. I read books, I listened to songs on the radio. Something was happening and I just didn't know what it was. During all this time, I never told a soul. My wife later asked me why I didn't tell anybody, and I told her because a part of me wanted it to be something that I did because I needed to, not because I felt pressured or pushed or encouraged. It was something between me and God. Well, the third week came and we had the service. The preacher stood up again, encouraged like always if anyone wanted to turn their life over to Christ to come forward, or like always if anyone felt like they wanted to recommit their life to Christ. Song started singing, my heart started pounding again, worse than the first 2 weeks. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the preacher puts his hands up, says stop the music. And my wife looked at me like, what in the world is he doing? He's never done that before. Well, all of a sudden my heart felt like it was going to beat out of my chest. I couldn't hardly stand up. I was holding myself up the pew. My heart was beating. I felt like I was being pulled forward, but I was just fighting. I was scared to death, didn't know what to do. My wife thought I was sick. I told her I was fine. He said, look, I know there's somebody in here. I know it. I feel it. Someone is in here that needs to commit their life to Christ. Won't you please come forward? Well, I've never considered myself a coward, but that day I was scared to death. I couldn't move. I couldn't go nowhere. I couldn't tell nobody. For some reason, I was scared to death, so I just stood there. Song ended. We went outside to be greeted or say goodbye to the preacher. I told him then, I said, Brother Jerry, I have to talk to you. Something's going on. I have to talk to you. So after that strange experience, I realized that I couldn't ignore it anymore. I couldn't fight it. I couldn't. I had to do something. So that day after service, on the way out the door, I stopped and spoke with Brother Jerry, and I told him, I said, Brother Jerry, I need to speak to you. And he looked up into my eyes, and I could see that he knew. He didn't know before then, but when I came to him, I could tell that he knew. And that day we were actually having the Easter egg hunt for the children after lunch, and he asked me if I was coming back, and I said I was. He told me, he said, well, when you come back, you come find me and we'll talk. I said, okay. So me and my wife and the family, we went home. I never said a word to anybody. I kept thinking about it the whole time. And when we went back, I went straight looking for him. I found him and we went off to a room by ourselves and we talked. And he asked me questions and I told him the things that had been happening to me and the experience that I had that morning and the previous mornings. And he asked me if I felt like I was being convicted, if I was being called, and I told him that I was. And he asked me if I believed that Jesus Christ died for my sins, and I told him that I did. And he asked if I was willing to repent my sins, and I told him absolutely. And he asked me if I was ready to live my life for Christ, and I told him there's no other choice for me. I knew that was there was no way that I could ignore it. It was time. So we prayed, and I asked for Christ to come into my life and to save me and redeem me. And that day, it was pretty much the most amazing day I've had in my entire life. I felt new, I felt rejuvenated, I felt happy. And for the first time, I could look around in the church and I could understand the happiness in people's eyes, the joy of being there, the fellowship and the commitment that people make for Jesus and it was amazing. Well, whenever we got done praying, I came back out of the room and my wife's like, "Where have you been?" And I hadn't had a chance to talk to her, and Brother Jerry came walking up and handed me some pamphlets for a new Christian, and she busted out crying. And of course, I had tears running down my eyes, and Brother Jerry was like, "I'm so sorry, I didn't know you didn't tell her." And And I told her, she asked me why I didn't tell her, and I said, I just wanted to do it on my own. I wanted to be able to know that I'd done it, not trying to please anybody, not trying to prove anything to anybody. It was something between me and God, and I answered his call finally. I quit slamming the door in his face. I quit ignoring it. I opened the door and I stepped in. And since then, I can tell I'm a different person. I've had peace that I've never had in my entire life. I've had understanding. I've had enjoyment. I still had struggle, but during that struggle, unlike any other time, I've had conviction. I've had guilt for things that I've done. When I make mistakes, I ask for the Lord to forgive me and accept the fact that I'm just a human and I'm trying to do what He wants me to do. I'm trying to be the man that He wants me to be. And I enjoy reading the Bible. I enjoy learning verses. I enjoy coming to Sunday school. The only time I've missed Sunday school or church since then is because of work or sickness that I couldn't help it. It's something that I look forward to every single week. Before, I just went because, like I said, I did it out of respect for the family. I didn't really enjoy it. I couldn't wait for it to be over. Now I feel like it's over too quick. I can't seem to get enough time to learn and to study. I want to know more, I want to learn more, and I want to be able to do more. But I also feel like that I need to find my calling. I've always been told I have a gift for gab, I talk too much, so I figured this was one of my opportunities to actually step up and help in a way that I'm good at, because I could talk all day and never get tired of it. So I felt like that this was my chance.
Bring your tithe and bring your shame. Bring your guilt and bring your pain. Don't you know that's not your name? You will always be much more to me. And every day I wrestle with the voices that keep telling me I'm not right. But that's alright, 'cause